to give the floor to you, Annemie, to take us a little bit through, from your perspective, where we stand on smart sustainable cities.
Thank you, Kariaina. And yes, indeed, as you say, so we've been both working on this for a long time. Sorry, I'm trying to make this a full screen, but it's a little bit delayed. We see that there is actually a difference now in, yes, there it is. It seems to be accelerating now, of course, because of global urgency, climate catastrophes, economic, political crisis, war, pandemics. So it's very important that we try to find also a common target, a mission. And that is exactly then what the European Commission has been doing in the past years, what also then national governments in Europe are taking over and are implementing within a national scale as well, and soon also towards a global scale. So we hope, of course, that there is a possibility for cooperation here. Now the name of the presentation was making climate neutral cities irresistible. So it's not just about climate neutrality itself, getting to zero, making things a bit more efficient and effective, and getting more technology in to just get it to zero. But it's also, of course, about getting society, citizens, professionals on board, making sure that this is something that people want to invest in, both professionally and within their daily lives, and to also make it more long-term sustainable. So it's not just a one-term technological effort and then we're done, but this is a long-term change of society in a way. And of course, then in only a couple of days ago, IPCC came with its new report, again urging everyone that the time for action, it's now or never. So we need to speed up, we need to accelerate, even when a global context has so many other catastrophes and crises. So how do we make this happen? And I'm sorry for the horrible graphic. It's something I tried to put together based on that very complicated European landscape. Basically, the European Commission has created 5 missions, so a little bit like the American mission to get someone on the moon, where all the resources and all the efforts and existing programs were targeted towards that one mission. So European Commission has set up 5 missions, and they try to delegate then all of the resources they have in their ongoing programs, political support, any kind of mental, social, organizational structures to target them towards those missions. And there is a mission on climate, so that means climate change adaptation, climate transitions. There is one on soil and food, so making sure that we have viable, nurturing food and soils and agriculture, etc., available also in the future. There's a mission on cancer, basically eradicating cancer, and also building up more health promoting environments and societies. And then a mission on ocean, that's of course related to plastic, but also related to fisheries and just sustainable use of oceans. The most important in our context here now is the one on cities. So the one on the left, creating 100 climate neutral cities by 2030. Again, with some technology, you could probably just make that happen without a big mission, but the effort here goes towards making sure that it's a long-term sustainable effort for and by and with citizens, getting investment mechanisms to change, real estate developers on board, politicians wanting this. So really just reframing society to make this the most viable and the default option. That's of course easier said than done. From the European Commission side. So they then align their big Horizon Europe funding program, which is the biggest research and innovation funding program in the world, is targeted towards these missions. They also created additional mechanisms to support this. And let's see if it works, you know. So one of these mechanisms that was created to support these missions, to make sure that it's not just a matter of calculating something or like getting things to zero, was a new European Bauhaus. Of course, you know, the original Bauhaus 1 century ago was created to respond to economic crisis, world war, need to reboost society. And that's what they want to do now as well. So New European Bauhaus is one of these additional mechanisms the European Commission has created to give this whole climate neutral transition and Green Deal a soul, like a heart and soul. It's something that's supposed to, you know, get people on board, create affect, make people feel, make it tangible for people that, yes, of course, this is what we want. So it's about creating positive futures, of course, climate neutral futures, making things beautiful and sustainable, of course, as you already mentioned, and doing this together, making sure that also everyone feels that what they know and what they experience matters, and that this is part of building that future. Also very important here, it's not just about, you know, gathering what we have and repackaging a bit and hey, no, you know, now we have a strategy. It's really about looking for different ways to do things. And one of the things we're doing then there's a whole, I will tell you in a minute about some of the things we do then with Ålesund and with other Norwegian municipalities. First, then a few dates to see that something is happening. It's not just big words, it's not just a speech at a convention somewhere, but so there is this mission to have 100 climate neutral cities by 2030. By the end of January, the European Commission asked European cities to submit an expression of interest, so showcasing how they would plan to become climate neutral by 2030, which strategies they already had, not just within an environmental unit, but across, you know, also the digitalization, social media, any other, you know, commercial business sectors. What is that package of measures and strategies they have or would create in order to become climate neutral? And originally they thought, okay, we need 100 cities, maybe 150 will apply. But 377 European cities applied, which was much bigger than they had expected, which is positive, of course. And just in a couple of weeks from now, we will know which cities have been selected. And we hope, of course, that some of the Norwegian municipalities that applied will be on board. Ålesund applied, obviously. So did 7 other cities in Norway. There is a big platform called Net Zero Cities, composed of big European networks and then a lot of support players in different countries that are going to help these cities in their journey towards climate neutrality. And then, of course, this whole mission also gets connected to the global urban transitions mission. So that was another good news, mission innovation, which typically has been a very energy and energy technology oriented global mission. End of last year, approved a new global mission on urban transitions, where then the European mission to create 100 climate neutral cities will become one partner, plus hopefully India, different African countries, different Asian countries, to maybe U4SSC to become also this global mission towards climate neutral, socially innovative cities. So again, that is being planned and being shaped as we speak. So we have high expectations, but it is very important that everyone connects to it to make it happen. And then some of the questions we are investigating with Ålesund is, of course, this is not just some idealistic mission that yes, all cities should become climate neutral, people should invest in it, businesses should connect to it. So we as a European mission, but also locally, are trying then to work with investors, with real estate developers, with artists, politicians, etc., to see what are the daily investments that a city anyway already makes? How could we tweak these towards climate neutrality? Can we then, I'm sure everyone understands why the investors and the real estate developers and the politicians need to be on board, and the engineers, as you mentioned, but also artists, to just maybe ask questions in a different way, or make the experts stop and just think a bit of, why are we going in this direction? Is that really going to get us to the target? Are there different ways of doing things? And sometimes also just to help different sectors to talk together, because everyone has their own priorities, has their own way to view what needs to be done and how things are done. And sometimes we even use the same words, but we mean something else. So can we just create these teams that look in the same direction and that can make this happen? And the key there then would be to, yes, of course, look at climate neutrality, but then also look at urban qualities. That can be air quality, quality of life. It can be just the attractiveness of living or working in a certain area, of the accessibility of a square for different groups of people. So looking at these urban qualities, not just as something that's good for society, but also trying to quantify how this would help the real estate developers and the investors in their targets. So trying to document the added value and impact of going for urban qualities, the co-benefits towards climate neutrality, and of course towards economic viability of investments. And so rather than being on opposite sides and just trying to argue for some kind of priority, looking together where we can create these co-benefits and how we can avoid conflicts of interest. So that are some of the things that we, of course, have started to do with Ålesund, also with some others, with several other cities in Europe, identifying these co-benefits, getting a lot of actors on board to build those stories, checking these scenarios with, digital twins, not just the Ålesund or Augment City digital twin, but most cities have data visualizations of some kind. So we're trying to see what they can do locally to use this in the scenario building, how we can then work all the way with the investors to de-risk these investments, to look how we can create these value-based financial and partnership models to make this viable also in the longer term. And then, of course, as already mentioned, how do you make sure that this is not abandoned when there is a political or economic crisis, or when value chains are disrupted because of a war, or when priorities are shifted because of the need to take on board refugees, or when there is a pandemic, etc. So how can we make this really robust and resilient? And how can we do that together? And maybe new types of organizations in new roles can come on board to make this happen. So those are some of the things we're doing. So linking the physical also with the way people experience things, the values that we have, and trying to not just argue for, one is a commercial economic viability and the other is like a societal value, but how can both of these be merged into physical solutions that increase the value of the investments? And how can we do that throughout the whole cycle? So not just at the start for some kind of vision or quality program, and then it's diluted throughout the whole process, but how can we, every time new actors come on board in planning, implementation, monitoring, build up this understanding as a process that is sustainable in the long term. And all of this, of course, also, it's not just something we're thinking about doing or building up. We also, in a couple of weeks from now, will start a new European funded project that links this big cities mission with the new European Bauhaus, and where we will be responsible for making sure that these 100 cities have good local collaborative governance models, so that these complex ecosystems of stakeholders, that they actually work together, that this urban quality and climate neutrality are merged into the processes. That will start 1st of May. We're not allowed yet to show logos or to promote the project in any way, so I'm just mentioning it to you now. We are coordinating that project. And of course, the whole city's mission, New European Bauhaus, cooperation with the municipalities, and towards the global mission, we hope would be a good opportunity also to, well, to maybe look towards cooperation with the U4SSC system. And of course, within this project and hopefully new Ålesund-based projects as well, there should also be these kinds of cooperation opportunities. So if you have any questions or you see any possibilities for cooperation, or you think, oh, we're doing this too, and we have such great experience material that we would like to share, please do so, because we'll be looking for, you know, to really like source everything. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to see what's already happening, see if we can bring it on board, see if we can lift it up also within the European system, make it visible, and see then if other cities would be interested in applying this as well. It could be a tool, it could be a model, it could be a specific district that you developed. It can be a lot of different things. So let us know.
Thank you so much, Annemie, for this update on what's happening on the European cities and all the interesting programs that you are and the NTNU is involved in. As you know, we have here in the partnership of the lab a lot of private sector, right? And I know you share with me that we're not going to reach not even one resilient city if we're not engaging with the private sector. And I see from a lot of your lists here, you know, we are touching upon the same issues that is also the private sector is involved in now, everything from using technology, digital twins, new business model for sustainability, all these things. So I think what we could do, and from our side here, is to break down a little bit together how we could engage the private sector into this, right? And how they could cooperate, because now it's large, it's a lot of elements, a lot of politics in it. But if we could together agree that we could break this down into either, you know, very, very concrete things that you know, all these partners that is here, but also around in Norway and outside of Norway could join, I think we would do a good favor for a lot of also very interested in companies. You agree?
Absolutely. And just very briefly, we, in another project, with Trondheim, then we, you know, we worked with a lot of the private sector to create a local positive energy district, so a district that generates more energy than it consumes. And we have mobility providers and energy infrastructure companies, facilities, ICT on board, and real estate developers. And what we saw is that we have a good solution. It is just not viable within the current regulatory system. So we, with public sector, with academia, with the private companies, we started to, well, lobby towards the national government and European government to try to get this changed, also to make sure we could get dispensation to test it, to show that it works, and then to influence the longer term regulatory changes. So these types of things are also useful, because then the private sector gets a chance to show what can be done, but they need also help then from public sector academia to maybe lift it up into certain, like into regulation, into longer term planning, to make sure that it's not just a one-time effort to pilot, but that it can just be integrated into the market on market terms. But that first step, prototyping it, getting it to work locally, getting these different actors together, there I think public sector and academia can make a very important effort to make these things happen. So those types of things we can happily explore as well. Yes.
We're looking forward to continue the fantastic cooperation with NTNU and with your group and everybody here. So yeah, thank you very much. We're not going to move. I think we're going to just move quickly on. We are a little bit back of time here.